Call this meeting to order.
The orthopedic position.
Pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so for the minutes, John Souza is not here, Phil Lenz is not here, and Adam Silver's not here. Also, Sean McGinnis is not here. Okay. First thing on the agenda is Finance Department fiscal year 25 budget presentation. I would like to take something out of order on something that I've been working on, and then we'll take up the Finance Department budget after that. I want to do it a little bit out of order because Brian and Terry are leaving at 6:30, at 5:30?
I have to leave at
6:30, well, I should be happy by then.
5:30.
5:30?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. We should be able to get through the finance budget pretty quickly. All right, so I want to talk about this worksheet, and this is what happens when you have a convalescing retired CFO with a lot of time on his hands.
Yikes.
So I'll go up here and well, they can't hear me up there, right? So,
Yeah, Bob?
yeah, I'll come over here.
Did you share a copy of this, Bob?
No, because this is a working document, and I'm actually looking for input. And there are certain assumptions that have been made, and I'm looking for feedback on those assumptions. But the purpose of doing this was to see, I mean, they did a long-term capital plan, and what I did was take a look at actuals for revenue and actuals for expenses. And you can see there where on the revenue side, you have property taxes, new growth, state aid, local receipts, overhead and indirects, and debt exclusion, and other. So what I did was I took the last 3 years of numbers for both revenue and expenses, and I came up with averages. Not so much on the revenue, because the revenue, property taxes, it's 2.5%. It's by law. State aid, has been pretty flat. It's been about 1%. Property taxes, new growth. Gary gave me a number of about 800,000, so I increased it for inflation. But also every year I added $800,000 to the base, well, 800,000 plus inflation to the base for property taxes.
So, hold on a second. So, the first set of figures, lines, where is it? 5 through
Can you see that?
12.
Can you help he's on the focus on that, I can hardly see it.
Can you? Okay.
Let me see if I can make it a little bit bigger.
I thought it was
There
me.
you
Oh,
And you can make it bigger.
Like this.
look at she's
Is that better, Bill?
Oh,
Yeah, that's
brighter
good.
screen versus
that-
this.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
So,
It's
so
better,
what,
thank you.
new growth, oh, there it is. Okay, that's what I was looking for. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So state aid, unfortunately, is pretty flat. And then the local receipts, and then, the overhead and all the other ones. So, I'm coming up with, and I went right to 2025. What I did was I took 3 years, the last 3 years, and I took the 2023, and I basically brought it up to 2025 numbers for this, because we don't have actuals for 2024 yet. So that gave me projected income of $108,620. When you go down, and obviously expenses were much more difficult to do, but over the last 3 years, general government has gone up 6.5%, public safety which is mainly the police, has gone up 5.4. Community services, 5.8. Public Works is negative 0.3. And there's a lot of reasons for it, but obviously, Public Works is not going to go down. So if you look to the right, I used the 2.5% number just as something that I could come up with, so I could do a calculation. The schools are up 4.8%, and actually the Dartmouth schools are less than 4.8%. It's really New Bedford Voc that is higher.
So how many years did you do this over?
I used 3 years actuals.
3 years back.
I used 3 years actuals, and I compared it, how much their expenses went up.
Yeah, so
Over that
when I
period.
did it from 2009, which was the oldest that the state had. and
Yeah.
Did it up to 2022, and it was 4.3, so it's around 4.3 a year for school.
Schools.
Bob, excuse me, this analysis that you're doing, it kind of really supports what Brian did a couple of years ago when
Yeah.
he said about the leveling of more or less of revenue, but at the same
Yeah.
time, the escalation of expenses, and eventually we're gonna be running into
Into a
an issue.
problem, yep.
Yes.
Yeah. And then employee benefits, 5.1, and then product and liability, 6.5. And then Cheryl Brontes gave me the debt service, which is the actual, and that is assuming that we take on no more debt. Okay? So for 2025, the income would be 108,000, and our expenses would be 101,000. But when you take those numbers out further, when you go out to, let's see here, 2026, 111,000 or 112,000 at 106, you can see that the gap just keeps on closing every single year because your income is not keeping up with the increase in expenses. And what happens is, basically, in 2030, you're flipped, you're negative. So the reason I did, actually, the name of this file is called the 50-year projection. What I was attempting to do was to see what the impact of the long-term capital planning would be on these numbers. So these numbers actually go out 50 years. The expenses don't go out 50 years. Because when I hit break even, I said, oh, wait a second. That's at a point where, we don't have any more money for capital. So again, this is a working document, and I'm going to present it to Sean and you, Gary, and you tell me if they're all because it's all based on assumptions. It's based on actuals for 3 years, 2021, 2022, and 2023. But the revenue, is based on basically the law, and local receipts is based on somewhat actuals too. But to me, this is a problem because you can see.
It's what it is like 2 years ago, it's a structural deficit.
Yep.
And I pointed that out 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna keep getting worse.
Yeah. But I just like to thank Gary, Donna Fernandez, and Cheryl Brontes for their input on this. And again, I'm open to any suggestions on changing a number or what.
So I think one of the reasons why I did this a couple of years ago was to punch up the whole idea of trying to find new revenue, and why I pushed economic development a couple of years ago. Because aside from that, we're gonna be running into budget deficits every year, and we'll be going for overrides for every year.
No,
Yeah.
it's not a suggestion. Bob, if I may?
Sure.
Besides overrides, we probably may be even looking into floating some type of bonds out there for a stopgap in between the revenue and expense. You have to.
Yeah, that would be a Gary question.
If the only thing with doing revenue anticipation notes, you have to pay it back, so
Well,
Even
that's
if-
true, Gary, that's right.
Yeah, even if we did a revenue anticipation, note, we would have to know that the revenue would eventually come in at some point in time. We can't just borrow and then, we'd have to increase the expense. I mean, so it has to balance. But these numbers that we presented and Bob's presenting is pretty accurate. We do a 5-year financial projection. I do it for Sean, and it much mimics this. But what we do is we go one step further. For like FY '25, we'll also project, what if we want to do a 3.5% increase or a 4% increase? So we have those numbers.
Right.
But this is pretty much how we initially develop the budget each year.
So
When we put this together.
do you annually share your, that data with the select board?
Well,
The data showing that mimics this, saying that there's gonna be, we have a structural issue.
we don't officially present it to them, but we could. I think that
You have to do it
it's,
for the state, right? Is it
right,
the state?
when we file our information to the state, we have to pretty much give them what we anticipate for revenues and what the expenses actually are. But we don't, that might be a good point. Maybe we have some kind of presentation in the budget presentation that we give that shows the 5-year projection
Well,
and what the trend would be.
yeah.
Sure.
So that's a good point.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
the other, well, I guess the other part of this is that when you add it to the individual tax levy, it's not that, it's gonna be serious, it's serious money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad, I did it separately, I did a little different way, but I kind of, I've been involved with corporate finance for a lot of years, and I said to myself, if this was a business, and I was going to buy this business, I would do this analysis,
I
and I wouldn't buy
it.
the business.
I just got silent by
I
you.
wouldn't buy it.
But it's unfortunate that the state legislature, just limits your revenue, just limits your, and if we were a company, we could raise our prices, we could have new products, we could have a lot of different things.
Well, this actually supports what Terry was saying a long time ago about Proposition 2.5. It's probably going by the wayside because, and this is a classic example why, and I'm sure that we're not the only town that's running into this problem, especially the suburbs.
Sure, yep. But then again, I will send this to you and take a look at it. And if you have any questions, don't respond to just respond to me. And, because like I said, it's based on projections and things like that, but I think,
So, I have a question though. I mean, so 2 years ago, I said the same thing, you're saying the same thing now. The question is now, so hair is on fire now, so what do we do about it?
well, 5 years it'll be on fire.
Well,
think
no,
we
but
should
you
be
gotta
planning for that
Yeah,
fire
no,
now,
no,
by
no,
the
That's
way.
gonna have the fire,
Let's
Bob.
say it's smoldering.
Yeah, it's
So,
smoldering, yeah,
I mean, so then now's the time to start being proactive.
yeah.
Exactly.
So what is the town doing to be proactive? I mean, that is the question. We've asked that question for a couple of years.
Okay, go ahead, Terry.
Well, I think, first of all, thank you for doing this for a couple of reasons. One, I think anybody who questions transparency or access to information, this will let them know that that's available. I agree, it's what you put out a couple of years ago, and I think in terms of what is the town doing, number one, the long-term capital planning, which I watched the meeting on the 14th. There wasn't a meeting last week, right? The 21st? Was
No,
there?
we didn't have any
No.
last week.
So I just want to make sure I didn't miss it. So I saw that there were mixed reactions to the plan, and I think even when the select board heard the plan, there were some concerns. And I get it, nobody wants to raise taxes. I don't see 2.5 going away because nobody wants to raise taxes. It's very popular. This problem is being faced across the Commonwealth. You can see it in the newspaper, that it's not just schools, it's everywhere. Brian's point, in terms of other forms of revenue, I don't have the answer to that. I think the Long-Term Capital Planning Committee recognizes, one, the school's budget, which has been a big focus, and two, health benefits, and that's what you've seen information on. But that's more in planning for upcoming expenses. So my first concern when you put this up is, well, we can't afford it, what do we do? On the long-term capital plan, there's really nothing there that's gonna, except for rec center, there's nothing that's really optional.
that's true.
We either do it or we have an
True.
emergency, right, the other stuff, so we do have to address that, we have to plan with what we have, but maybe there is, I don't know what the options for raising revenue would be. I think you could look at the commercial taxes are as high as they can be, right?
Well, this is my point. Like 2 years ago, I suggested that we should start looking at that Route 6 corridor as
Yeah.
a source of revenue. But I don't mean like sharing the expertise of the regional commercial commerce thing that we currently do. I mean, I'm talking about having a director perhaps of economic development
Development or something,
and
yeah.
putting a plan together with goals and to try and raise revenue so that we're not so reliant on the tax levy.
I thought we had someone in charge of economic development.
Well, we had the assistant town administrator, he left.
We have another.
And now we have another one. But I mean, it's
Yes.
not sharing it's escaping me. What do you call it? Like we currently do, we're one of like 15 towns in Bristol County.
Collaborate.
That collaborate with.
Chamber of Commerce.
That's not good enough.
Yeah, it's not good enough. No.
No. I mean, and the only thing we have to do that could have an impact on raising revenue would be that Route 6 corridor.
Yeah.
But it takes a
I mean,
long
local
time.
receipts too, I mean, that, but,
Yeah,
but it's not enough, you know,
Yeah,
the
only big increase the revenues would be through taxation.
taxation,
Yeah, of
absolutely.
course.
We can raise fees, but what are we gonna gain with fees?
70%.
We're gonna raise a permit
You're
here and
just,
there.
you're just shifting the burden, it's still on somebody's
Yeah.
back, you're just shifting it to a different box.
Yeah, but the biggest impact would be through taxation.
Yeah, but I just want to point out
Yeah,
that,
that's what will happen.
you know, the break even in 2030, you know, don't forget, we have, in 2025, again, it's a projection, 108, and we have 101,000 expenses, so we got $7 million. Now, we average spending just on replacement capital, police cars, trucks for the DPW, about 4.2 million.
On average.
On average, a year. So this year, we'll have 7 million, we'll spend 4.2, and then the next year, you know, so 112,000 versus that's $6 million. So we will have, our expenses will be lower, so we will have cash to spend on future projects, or capital, but it's just the income is not keeping up with the expenses.
Well, but I mean, we could be looking at things like, I wish I had known we were gonna discuss this,
Well, I just finished it.
oh, well, okay. I had a 6-page document of things that towns could do
Yeah.
to raise revenue and also cut costs. Things like regionalization, buying, for
But they-
instance. Buying, and you could even, if you got good at it, you could sell your services to smaller towns. I mean, but it's thinking out of the box that we
Yeah.
don't usually do here. But I think these sort of numbers
Yeah.
call for thinking out.
Yeah, well, actually, you know, it's up to the select board at this point in time.
But
You know,
they, but
we can
what
only-
I'm hearing
we're
is, they
advisories.
don't even have this data.
Well, I'm-
It's up to the
I
select
might-
board.
after,
Yeah, they
after
should have it.
Sean reviews it,
Should
I'm
have.
gonna ask to create it to the select board.
When the long-term capital planning committee was put in place, there was some talk about morphing that group into a
Hey, guys,
budget.
guys, Terry's talking.
I'm sorry.
Chair. Excuse us.
Sorry,
I know,
sorry.
I know, talk to the hand, I know, Chair.
There was some talk about the long-term capital planning committee morphing into a budget advisory group, and that might be the group that could make recommendations. I'm not sure it's fair to think the select board's gonna be able to resolve this, but I think maybe some advice from the finance committee. I would also be interested in knowing if there are any towns who have such a position, who do that kind of work. I don't know about that, so that would be worthwhile looking at, I think. We have to
Right.
remember that the assistant town administrator is also responsible for grants, and every time we talk about a new expense, I hear somebody say, well, we're gonna get that guy, and he's gonna write us a
I
grant.
know, but
So-
we always do that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so,
All right, so that's it. Like I said, I will send this to you, and
Okay, good.
you give me your input, and,
Right.
just send it to me, and then we'll incorporate it in the next time, and we'll take it forward.
But you think that the numbers are pretty accurate, Gary, by what you look at?
Yes,
Okay.
and I would just, just to clarify a little bit, the select board does get we do the budget review with them, as shown, we're preparing that. So they get this information, they may not get it in one snapshot, but they get that state aid is trending,
Yep.
Level,
You don't
local
pro-
receipts
you
on
don't
trending
project
level.
it out like this.
We do.
Yeah, but you don't give it to them like this, do you?
We do in our budget presentation. So when we give our budget presentation, they see the trend for like the last 10, 15 years of what's been happening with this. And the interesting part of this schedule, and it's pretty much similar to what I do, is if you took the average of the rate of the increases there, it's 2.5. But take the averages of the expenses, it's probably double that. So that's really it in a nutshell. And yeah, how do we generate revenues that are not so much impactful? It's going to impact pretty much everyone. And the biggest piece of this is the taxation. That's,
What I'm hearing Brian talk about is big picture thinking, so they might get this information, but the conversation about how do we deal with these things long-term isn't really happening anywhere.
I
It's
don't
not-
think so.
Right, and I think that it's hard to have that conversation, but it's important because.
and the projections may also help out with the long-term capital planning. We
Yeah.
probably could present them that going forward, so they know where we stand.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, thank you.
Good job.
Nice work.
Do you, Mr. Chairman, do you want to do the minutes while you have a quorum?
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Okay, you have before you the minutes from March 14th,
Okay.
and somebody want to make a motion to accept the minutes? Anybody changes or anything, or?
Nope. I make a motion to accept them.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. Everybody in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain.
Okay, we have 2 abstentions. We have Janine and Terry abstaining. Okay.
Good.
All right.
Okay.
Shoot.
So, just to go over just a little bit of the schedule, so that everyone's here, so we can just go through this. On the 4th of April, the town administrator and EMA and building, which will be a pretty quick presentation, because we know we have the schools also, so the schools are presenting on the 4th. So we'll have those, and that will wrap up the departments. And then I also reached out, as the committee wanted me to, on the planning board articles. So she will be in on April 25th to discuss planning board articles. And I believe maybe the planning board will also be here also to answer any questions the committee has. And then we can talk a little bit later about the rest of the schedule for April. So today I'll be doing the finance department's presentation.
Yeah, can I just say one thing?
Yes.
I did talk to Jim Kiley, and I asked him, because the superintendent's going to be here, and I asked that the superintendent present her process for doing her strategic plan. The strategic plan is not going to be done until the fall, but I asked her to present the process that they're going through, just so we'll have a feel for it.
Okay. So
Okay.
tonight I'm doing the finance department presentation, which includes treasury, collection, treasury, assessor's office, MIS, and the town accountant. My name is Gary Carone, the Director of Budget and Finance, Treasurer and Town Collector. Our mission is to provide Dartmouth residents with the highest level of customer service and support through innovative technology and trained professionals while maintaining the public trust. So here's our chart of accounts, myself at the top with the, also being the treasurer, our town accountant, one administrative clerk, town assessor, an assessing technician, part-time, a full-time assessing technician, and a administrative clerk. Under the town collectors hierarchy, we have the assistant town collector, one administrative clerk for water and sewer, which gets paid out of the enterprise fund, 2 cashiers, and 1 vacant cashier that we have not filled, I believe, for 3 years now. On the treasurer, I have we have myself, the assistant town treasurer, our payroll manager, and the payroll administrator. And MIS director, we have Mike Corval, as you know, and his support staff, 1 full-time member. So a little bit about the treasury function here in town. We receive, take charge, and account for all the monies belonging to the municipality. Receive and identify the monies due to town and city reports, same as the accountant and auditor does. Maintain a cash book, provide for adequate funds for current obligations through short and long-term debt issuance, and invest in municipalities' funds. We negotiate all borrowing, prepare necessary documents and notes, and report the same to the Director of Accounts, Bureau of Local, Division of Local Services, and maintain maintenance of the town's debt. We maintain the custody of the stabilization funds, pension reserve funds, OPEB trust funds, investments, and other funds not allocated through other agencies. We maintain the custody of the municipal financial documents, including insurance policies and fidelity bonds, surety bonds. We maintain all the tax title accounts, conduct sales of land, prepare documents to petition for foreclosure for land court through the tax title process. We close and reconcile all books and accounts, including the cash book, warrants, bank accounts, insurance programs, retirement funds, debt records, and tax title accounts. And as mentioned, we prepare the reports for reconciliation of treasurer's cash, weekly and monthly reports to the town accountant on the balances and payroll deductions, and the report to the Director of Accounts, Division of Local Services on a quarterly basis for on our cash position and the interest rates we receive on those. So what we've completed for goals in '24 is we've merged the payroll person that we had, and we made them financial systems analyst. Implementation of Munis modules that the town has paid for but not utilized. Purchase order module being one of them. That has been completed, and now they're working on an HR module and accrual module. We do the ongoing rate analysis to better capture maximize the highest rate interest that we can in the environment that we're in for the general fund, trust funds, and stabilization accounts. And as a result of that, the town has now realized additional investment income for '24 and then now into '25. Right now, we're seeing rates at about, still at 5%, but a shorter term, 6 to 9 months. And we also maintained the AAA S&P rating at the last $2 million AMR borrowing. That's the automatic meter reading borrowing that we did for the Water and Sewer Department. And we strategically plan now for financing options for future larger capital projects. So the budget itself for the Treasurer's Office, here you'll see on the screen, is the first one is for the Director of Finance. Second is certification that they receive. Professional other is, let's see, we got this down here, is the assistant in our office and the payroll manager, and then we have also we also have the other staff member that actually produces the payroll.
So is that 2.0, 2.5, how many staff?
With me, it's,
In that
it's
line?
3.
3, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And then overtime, longevity. And then I believe we've level funded, well, let's see the expenses. We went up a little bit on the consulting, and the reason for that was we used that along with the, as I mentioned, with the Munis modules that we have. We have these Munis modules that we pay a substantial amount of money for at the beginning of the year, and we're trying to get them up and running. So we use a consultant that works with our systems analyst downstairs. Any questions on this budget?
Gary, did you say you still have an opening?
Not in the treasurers. On the collector side, we do.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Gary, excuse me, when you say level funded, are you talking level funded between the 2024 original and revised? What is your reference to level?
Revised,
funded?
you see where it says revised budget 2024?
Yeah, I got it.
99,9,
Yep,
103. We increased it because of the, a little bit more on the consulting.
all right, and as opposed to last year, you within 3% guidelines from last year? or
Yes.
what? You are,
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, town collector. Myself, the town collector. We're governed by Mass General Law, Chapter 30, Sections 1 through 65 for the collection of taxes. I won't go through every single one of these, but the roles and responsibilities, we report to the Division of Local Services. We must be bonded, and we act on the tax commitments that are sent over from the assessor's office. We cannot collect on any bill unless it's signed off by the assessor's office. We issue sewer betterment releases. We do MLCs for the transaction of sales of property through either attorneys or real estate agents. We file proof of claims for bankruptcies. We monitor that, preparation of tax title over to the treasurer's office, and maintain payment agreements for real estate, water, and sewer, so that if they become delinquent, they don't, hopefully don't get a lien on their property. And I also act as the assistant parking hearings clerk. We collect real estate, personal property, motor vehicle, boat excise tax, water and sewer, trash fees, mooring fees, and departmental receipts, which are the miscellaneous receipts that we talk about, or local receipts. We obviously accept cash, check, US mail, online invoice cloud, which is our online platform, direct ACH through the mortgage companies, and RMV mark and clear system, which we work with our deputy collector. Once motor vehicle tax becomes delinquent, we have the ability to mark you at the registry and collect on that, in that form. We also offer a lockbox service and the drop box out front. So these are the bills that were issued between 2023 and 24. You see slight increases on real estate, personal property, motor vehicle, boat excise tax, water and sewer bills. So we track the trend every year on these.
That's the number of bills?
Yes, volume. How much did we collect year to date? Real estate tax, 66.9 million, personal property, 3.7 million. Motor vehicle excise tax, 4 million. We just issued the big commitment. You probably know that you've got the bill in the mail. It's actually due this weekend. And water and sewer, 10.8 million. We've collected in interest and demand fees, $278,136. And that's broken out with real estate, 129,311. Now, these are not budgeted. These are just, we budget them, but they're not a receivable, if you will. Motor vehicle excise tax, we've collected $55,132 in fees. Boat excise tax, $3,700, $88,000 for water and sewer, and then police off duty, $1,500. So this is in addition to us collecting on the bills. So I just put this up here for the folks at home. Assessed valuation is $1,000 times the rate equals the amount billed. We bill in 4 installments. We're quarterly billing, August, November, February, and May. We also track how many people are paying online. We saw post-COVID more people going and transitioning to online and paying less in cash, which is something we like. I mean, there's less risk for fraud and so on and so forth when we don't have to handle as much cash. We have about 9,000 registered users, and we collect about $14.1 million in receipts through the online portal. So some of the projects and goals that we worked on, we continue to work with the residents for payment agreements. We try to keep them so they don't receive liens. That's something that we don't want to have a resident have as a lien on their property tax. We do as much as we can to work with them. We continue to promote the online collection piece of this. And in '25, my goal is to complete the going from semi-annual to quarterly water and sewer billing. This has been a long project, even prior to me coming to the town. And we're almost there. I think we're about 70% complete with the project. That's still out there installing the components on people's meters. So we hope to have that done by fiscal '25, so we can start the quarterly billing, which will help residents be able to budget better and detect leaks. And we maintain banking relationships to keep banking costs low. I know that prior to about maybe a year ago, John had asked me about our relationship with the local banks. We do have a great relationship with one of the banks. We pay for no armored car service, no check remote deposit service, so we do everything in-house, and we keep the costs minimal. So as you'll see, the budget is the collector's budget. The first one is $112,669. Nothing has been, well, $35 has been expended out of that line item to date. And the reason is because we are in the process of hiring that position. So that has been a savings to the town there a little bit. And then the clerical staff, which consists of, I'll give you the number, Terry, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then down below on the expenses are the bill services that we use to print. Education is for the beginning of having people to go and get certified. Postage. We had to increase postage, office supplies, in-state travel for meetings, and dues and memberships. Any questions on the collector's budget? Town accountant, Donna Fernandes. Town accountant responsibility is verify the expense payment is lawful and justified, and that funding exists under the appropriation budget, the appropriate budget line item. Maintain municipal books, including the general ledger subsidiary, and the subsidiary ledgers, and maintain a detailed records of all the debt. Close of the fiscal year, she works with the Department of Revenue to certify, help certify free cash, Schedule A, and so on and so forth. Let's see, she makes an annual report that provides the receipts and expenditures to the past fiscal year, and all funds shows the specific appropriation amounts, expenditures and purposes, states any change in municipal debt, and lists indebtedness incurred and unpaid at the end of the fiscal year. As I mentioned, she works and she produces the Schedule A, and maintains a working relationship with our annual audit. We have obviously, the committee knows we have an annual audit every year, and she works closely with that group. Some of the invoices that has been processed, Water Enterprise Fund, you'll see a slight increase there. Same thing with sewer, solid waste, Waterways Enterprise Fund, DPW, DCTV, and all of the general fund invoices that are processed by her office. So some of the goals that were completed by the town accountant, scanning invoices into Munis TCM module, which has been a tremendous step forward, where we don't have to deal with paper anymore. These invoices are scanned and kept in each line item, so if anyone wants to go look at an expense, they pull it up, they see the invoice attached, which also helps out when we have our audit, because they don't have to be lugging around paper. And also, she was dealing with a consultant they've cleaned up the UMass, the Universal Municipal Accounting System, general ledger, and she's gotten some of that. We're on two different systems, us and the school department, so maybe one day we're set up to merge with them. We've kind of got that squared away, but that would be an additional cost to do that. Even though it's the same Munis product, it's still two different pieces of software. So her budget, this is her first line, is her line item. She has 1.0 on her FTE, and the longevity in the office. Again, on the expenses, education, she attends the recertification classes, office supplies, in-state travel, and dues and memberships. Any questions on the town accountant? No. Town assessor, Jessica Pacheco, she's our acting assessor. As you know, as the committee knows, for the longest time, we've been trying to find an assessor. We were lucky enough to have Richard Gonzalez, who was the retired assessor, and who is now cross-training Jessica. And Jessica has completed a few of her classes and the CPUs that she needs to become a certified assessor. So we're assuming that, or we're hoping that within the year, she'll become a certified assessor and then be able to apply for that position. And hopefully we can get this
Can I
done.
just ask one
Yes.
question I forgot to ask? In terms of contractual increases in people's salaries, which positions are not in collective bargaining?
Every single one is. It's either, so all the management
Yeah.
for the positions that I've mentioned, the steel workers,
Yeah.
everyone else is DTEA.
Okay, so they're all,
Correct.
nobody's determining, somebody has to look at a contract. to
Correct.
determine- Okay,
Yeah, they're all a union.
thank you.
So Jessica Pacheco, she's the acting assessor. Their responsibilities, they have to complete a course, as I just mentioned, with the DLS, Accounting 101. They value all real and personal property with the municipality on a fair cash value basis, inspect property sales, implement a cyclical property reinspection program, complete the annual property value assessment analysis, which is what they're doing right now. They're going around town. A vision appraisal system is going around and valuing people's properties indoors and out. They conduct inspections of the building permits when they receive them from the building department, and they fix the annual tax levy and set the tax rate. And they establish the annual overlay. Determine any overlay surplus, as I mentioned, assess the administer motor vehicle, farm, boat excise taxes over to the town collector, commit original and apportioned betterments to the collector, and commit delinquent municipal charges, including water and sewer liens and charges, over to the collector. And they process and act on abatements, whether it's veterans, elderly, that is their jurisdiction. So some of the metrics that they have in the assessor's office, I think this is pretty, yes.
Can you tell us what annual overlay is?
So every year, the overlay account is set aside for, let's say that I'm just making this up, let's say I'm Walmart, and you're assessed an X amount of dollars. You don't agree with that. We then have to go through the process where they would hear an abatement. If in fact it goes as far as like the ATB, Appellate Tax Board, and they win, we would have to then hit the overlay for any difference between the value that the ATB decides on and what the town is valued at.
Okay. And if there's a surplus, that just goes into the general fund?
So they control the overlay. So at some point in time, they can release those funds to the general fund. On occasion, they do. Most every fiscal year, they release those funds to the general fund. It's not a lot, but they do.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. So some of the stats in their office, they're responsible for $7.2 billion in valuation of the town, of which 75% is residential, 90% is commercial, industrial, and 6% is personal property. The real estate tax generated by the assessor's office is in FY '24 is $75.2 million. In addition, $5.6 million in motor vehicle, which consists of over 38,000 bills. Over the last 10 years, the assessor's office has generated an average of $842,000 in additional new growth. The taxable levy compounded with year of the Proposition 2.5, as we just spoke about, Bob brought up, they're also responsible for commercial and industrial values, including 52 miles of waterfront property and 9 solar farms. Dartmouth has 184 chapter land properties, which have to be valued by the Department of Revenue standards. And the office also administrates over 400 elderly, veteran, and blind exemptions. In addition, they have 100 small commercial business exemptions. The office reviews on a yearly basis over 1,000 building permits, monitors over 1,000 personal property accounts for changes in value, and the assessor's office administers 1,500 boat excise bills totaling over $80,000 in tax revenue. Here are the tax rates that were certified back in November, December timeframe. Put them up on the screen so the folks at home can see this. These are generated, this is what generates your tax bill and the valuations. To look at the tax levy trend over the years, you can see back in 2020, 49.8 million in residential, 15.7 in commercial industrial, all the way to now, where we're trending at 56.9 million residential, 18.3 million in commercial. This is a very interesting screen I like to put up every year. This is the FY24 largest taxpayers in assessed value. So Eversource Utility, with all the infrastructure that they have, is valued at $164.5 million. The North Dartmouth Mall is valued at $72.3 million. And you can see, as you go down the list, some shopping centers, the medical office, a few medical offices, the Crossroads Apartments, the UPS facility, $20.1 million. And remember, this is assessed value. So if you were to take these, divide it by 1,000, times it by the rate, you would get what they pay each year in tax to the town. So Eversource is pretty substantial. They're the largest. So the assessor's budget, again, we start off with the professional salaries. She is in DTEA. She is not Steelworkers Union clerical. So we have right now 2.5 FTE.
Thank you.
Oops, sorry. In their expenses, and $1,000 in longevity. In their expenses, they increased the education because she is going to be certified, so they needed a little additional more funds in there for education. Postage, they also increased, and office supplies stayed the same. Any questions on the assessor's budget?
Is this another position, professional appraisal, or is that a contracted service?
That's contracted.
Okay.
Gary, I do have a
Yes.
question. You want to go first, because you had your hand up first? You want to go ahead of me?
That's okay, go
All
ahead.
right. Just going back to the slide with the largest taxpayers,
Yes.
the North Dartmouth 2011 medical, what would that be? Would it be South Coast, would it be Hawthorne, who would that be? Or what is
I
that?
can get the detail, but I believe it's Hawthorne.
Hawthorne's that one?
Yes.
And what's the other one, South Coast?
Which one are you referring to, Bob? The one,
2005 LLC Medical, at the very end, the 18 million.
I believe that's the South Coast facility on, near the prison. I'd have to get the detail on
Yeah,
that.
it's on the left-hand side. It's on the left-hand side after you go to the railroad tracks.
Yeah, it's right,
It's three
That's right.
buildings. It's
that's
three
right, it's right across from, Health Tracks, really, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of buildings in there.
A, B, and C. Yeah.
Can you explain the small commercial business exemptions?
So the small commercial business exemption is, the board determines on, I'd have to get the details on this, but they determine on any business that's under 100, I have to get the number, but I think it's under 100 employees, gets the small business exemption.
So it's based on number of employees,
Number of
not
employees.
revenue?
No, number of employees. I believe it's on number of employees. I don't know if it's 100, but I know it's on number of employees, not revenue. But, so on the personal property tax though, when they're valuing personal property, which is not much, if, you know, on the restaurant side, even if you had a restaurant, they are valuing it on, you know, the equipment that's in the building, but to get the exemption, it's based on the number of employees.
So they are not paying the commercial rate?
They pay the commercial rate, but they get a discount.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
So what is that discount?
I'm not sure what it is offhand. I can check, I can follow up with you on that.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's 10% or what the amount is.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, MIS Department, Michael Colville, he's our MIS Director. Accomplishments in '24 include the implementation of Microsoft 365 for both the town and police department, Sentinel-1 managed services, which is the antivirus, upgraded the town hall security system and DPW highway security system replacement, town radio system improvements, additional cameras coverage in town hall, visual appraisal upgrade, and upgrade of the Tyler technology products include Enterprise ERP, Tyler Cashiering, which I use in my office, Tyler Content Manager, which is the scanning that I mentioned a little while ago, Tyler Hub, Doc Origin, and ESS, Police Self-Serve. Some of the 25 goals that he's looking forward to is keep the software and critical systems up to date as fiscally possible, continue to install new software releases and system upgrades supporting the town-wide operational efficiencies, coordinate timely resolution of hardware and software problems impacting critical systems, minimizing downtime, annual and weekly software updates as they become available, plan for the major upgrade as they are announced from the vendor, CIP requests possible, keep all systems patched with critical important malware and antivirus updates included in FY25 MIS operating budget. I'll go over that in a second. So this is his budget. First line item is his salary, so it's 1.0.
Yeah, can I
1.0
just, can we go back a second?
Yeah.
These goals are really his job, right?
What?
And the reason I say that is, you know, anytime I worked for a company, we had goals, and it was always drilled into me that you have to separate, goals have to be things that are new, not what they actually doing for their job. Everything here is really job-related. I can't see one thing that isn't. I would imagine that the police software would be a pretty big project for him.
Yeah, I mean, some of the accomplishments that he's included on the prior slide I have up on the screen,
Yeah.
some of those are still ongoing. So I don't know, he maybe on like the Sentinel-1, I mean, that's still, we're still looking, I mean, this, obviously, we need to continue with malware, software implementation. I guess maybe the short answer to that is, even though some are goals, some of them are continuing to continue. They're continuing to be implemented, I guess. You know, even when we had our rating call, I haven't been in one rating call since this one, that they've talked about how important it is to even have insurance now with all this stuff that's going on with cybercrime and cybersecurity. I mean, I've never thought that I'd ever see where a rating call to be rated AAA would lead to them talking about if you have insurance policies on IT, which that's what it's come to.
Yeah, no,
So-
that's the newest thing. Is there if there's a cyber hit, is there a manual that that you go to automatically to do all the steps that are necessary to protect the data? And has that been tested?
I can follow up on that. I'm not sure that there's a manual or a Bible, so to speak.
Yeah.
But as you know, the city of New Bedford had this happen to them a few
Yes.
years ago,
Right.
and they had to come up with a substantial amount of money. So we have stopgap measures in place so that we hope and we cross our fingers that it doesn't happen. And we have, we pay an insurance policy so that it doesn't. But whether or not we have if this happens, this is what you do, I'm not sure if we have a what if scenario.
Yeah, you have to have that,
I had
I'm
asked,
sure that we do as far as the policy is concerned,
yeah.
some
I'd
kind of
asked
manual.
Greg about this years ago when it happened, and he said that they do a daily hard backup, so that if they ever had to replace information, it would be maybe a day.
Oh, yeah, yes, on an
But that,
off-site server. You're losing one day of work, not,
yeah, that's,
Still
that
a
was
lot.
okay 10 years ago, but,
yeah.
but today actually you need fire drills, just like a fire drill.
We did go, actually, you mentioned that, we did go through a phase where Mike was sending out emails, or we were sending out service, emails, if somebody would respond to it, try to catch people in certain scenarios where, they respond to an email they didn't recognize.
Yeah.
So that was all part of the implementation of all this.
Gary, I have a question. Most of the software that we have is what they call canned software. In other words, we buy it. We don't really produce anything or develop anything ourselves, right?
Tweaking it, right?
So, correct. So when you have a tweak, so to speak, you have to consult the vendor, right? And do you have any costs on that, and how often that happens, and what we pay for that?
So I've used Munis in my professional career now for over 20-some years, and originally when Munis, I'm only speaking about Munis because Munis is our biggest piece that we pay for, and it's our financial software system. So back in the day, there wasn't an issue with calling up Munis and say, I need X report. It's not coming out as a canned report. Now, you pay for everything.
Yeah.
You pay for everything, every kind of enhancement they want to have, and every kind of, and, unfortunately, we're at the whim of having them
Well, let me
do
just
that.
say this, can we, and I haven't been in software for a while, but at one point, we used to use the CAN software, and then we would query the information and put it on a report, could be a Crystal report, could be.
We use Crystal Reports, right?
Yeah, so a lot of that, can that be downloaded?
Yes, yes.
All right, so I'm trying to say with that, we could
Yes,
implement and.
we do have Crystal
clear
Reports
on.
where the data that comes out of Munis is then, can be tweaked to however
Yes.
we need it.
Yes.
But calling up the vendor and asking them to do it on their own is
It's
costly.
unfortunate, I know.
Yes,
I know, that's why
yes.
we tried, when I was working, we tried to
They
get
have to
away
write
from that.
script, and they have to write all these different programs.
Exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
back then, I'm talking about 9 years ago when I was in the field, that'd be over $100 an hour at
Now it's
least.
thousands.
Yeah, there you go.
So this is about a 35% increase in the budget. Is that
So-
all software?
Yeah, so I'll explain the reason for the increase on the MIS budget. If you recall back when we were including these enhancements, Microsoft 365 and whatever, they were capital requests. But because these expenses are now ongoing and will be every year, we thought it was prudent to put it now in the budget instead of going back to capital every year to ask for something that we know we're gonna have to pay for every year.
Similar
That's
to the
just-
decision that was made about technology in the schools?
Yes.
Put it in the operating budget?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So where you see Microsoft 365, and then it's Microsoft 365 Police, System Security, and then System Security P is for police.
Very
Okay, so any questions on any one of the budgets in particular, or anything about the finance department?
Gary, I do have a question about postage.
Postage, yes.
Yeah, that's a heavy hitter in that area. Is there any way we could reduce costs, like using emails or something like that to?
So,
And
as I,
is this just about tax billing, or what exactly entail in the postage charge?
it's mainly, we use a firm, a company that prints our bills and then mails them. So, the short answer to that is, we try to push as many people online to the online platform. Remember, we have 9,000 registered users, and we collect over $14 million in revenue from that. So the more people we can push to online, the less we have to mail. Now,
Right.
we've done, since I've been here, even after post-COVID, cash has gone down, in the office, but more people are now online. I think over the last couple of years, we've increased the number of users probably about 1,500 online. So that means less foot traffic in the office and less mail we have to mail out, less bills. So we do as much as we can to try to get them pay by phone, text. I mean, we give them every option that is available.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody, any questions?
Good job, Gary.
Yeah, nice work, Gary, as usual.
So I think the next piece is we talk about the schedule for April, just so we have something maybe penciled in. We have 4 Thursdays in April,
Yeah.
and then we have 2 more Thursdays in May available for whatever we need to have, get accomplished. So as mentioned, on the 4th, we will hear from the remaining departments, and then you'll have a Schedule A at the next meeting. It'll be draft. And then CIPC is also meeting on the 4th. They may want to meet again. I had a meeting this morning with the DPW board. They did the rate study, and so I think Tim may want to present that to CIPC. I'm not sure. I'll have to touch
This
base
is
with
all gonna be on the 4th?
No, the CIPC is in the morning.
Oh, I was
So-
gonna say.
Yeah, no, CIPC is in the
Maybe at
morning.
midnight.
That's a totally separate. So the reason why I mentioned that was just that we could probably have CIPC and that done maybe the next meeting, next Tuesday in
Okay.
the 11th.
Gotcha.
They would be wrapped up. So what I envision is that we have the warrant articles to us on the 11th to look at. So that would be both the warrant articles and Schedule A.
The final warrant articles?
I'm not sure when the board is meeting to vote on it. I think they said they were meeting on that Monday, the Monday prior. So that would be the 9th or the 8th?
Of May?
No, of April.
April, okay,
Yeah.
that's better.
So I'm going to confirm those dates. I just want to make sure, yeah, I just want to make sure that we know when we're going to get the data so that we can act on it. So I would say that the last 2 meetings in April, we start working on the presentation and the letter and rationales, if in fact we have the warrant. And remember, planning will be in on the 25th, talk about their, do you want, their articles. Do you want me to schedule Buddy Baker for the CIPC articles, the CPC articles?
How does everybody
I
feel
don't know.
about that?
If you feel that you need me to.
Were they complex? I forget, honestly.
Can we look at it and make a decision?
I don't remember what they were.
Buddy tends to be very
Yeah, right.
Informative?
Yeah,
informative.
there you go. Nice way to put it.
And I just don't want to take time away from something else.
If we need, even if we need to meet on a Tuesday, I would suggest that we could meet on a Tuesday if we see that we need on another day.
Rather not, but, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to bring up one point on the warrant, because I noticed that they voted at the select board meeting on all the different items. And one of the things that was missing was an article for to take the kindergarten fund back to the
Operating budget.
operating, and that was missing. So I sent an email to David Tattlebaum, Sean, and yourself, asking to have that added to the warrant. And actually, it was Janine who alerted me to that.
The school committee has to vote on that, though. The school committee has to vote on that. I don't know if they have.
Okay. Well, it should be on the warrant, because if it's going to be on the warrant, it's going to be dead money.
Yeah, I'll follow up with Sean,
Yeah.
make sure we have an article.
Yeah,
If that's the
okay.
case, we need to have the article on it.
The other thing is, if anybody has anything for the school committee, this would be the week to work on it, if there's anything that you have.
I do.
Okay, so just get ready to present it at the
Okay.
meeting. I just want to make sure that the town administrator, EMA, and building doesn't take too much time
No,
away
yeah,
from the schools.
Yeah, we kind of told Sean maybe about 10 minutes.
And,
Oops.
and if possible, I'd like to, if we can refine my spreadsheet a little bit, I might want to present that to them, just so they can see you know, this is the situation. So it's not personal, it's just, this is the income and things like that, so. Anybody have anything else, or want to say anything, or?
I mean, I think that what you presented when we first started the meeting, I think that just supports that we're probably gonna need to do an override next year, and I think the town really needs to understand that. And I think that what you did was perfect, because we're going in the wrong direction. We're not gonna be, things are gonna get cut, people are gonna get laid off, there's no other way. Unless we, plant a money tree somewhere, which is, possible maybe. A little irony there.
It's gonna be big
I don't
one,
have a
though.
money tree.
Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that that's probably the only
Yeah.
answer.
You know, when we get into budgets, you get a lot of people's opinions,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to get away from opinions, I'm trying to get to facts.
Solid data.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's
Well,
excellent. I
What would
like
you think
that.
about switching planning board to April 4th and putting public schools on its own?
I think the more time on public schools, the
I
better, by
agree.
themselves.
I
Well,
agree.
have to
I'd rather
say the
cancel
same.
the
I
town
agree with that.
administrator.
Public schools
I'd
should be
rather-
by itself.
Like,
Yeah.
today, we could have done the
Yeah,
town
100%.
administrator.
It's big enough.
It's
Meeting right now.
very time
I-
consuming.
Well, I mean, it's the biggest hunk of the budget, annual operating budget, so I think it should
Why don't
be.
we move the town administrator to the 11th?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sounds
that's
good.
a great idea.
That's a good idea,
yeah,
Gary.
Yeah.
okay, all right.
Yeah, so the 4th will be only the schools.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
Sure.
Again,
Yeah.
if anybody has anything on public schools, please send it to me, not to the group, and then
Oh, okay.
I'll send it out. Is there anything else anybody wants to talk about? How's your time?
I don't think so.
You want to do liaison report now, or is that something coming up?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I've been,
Well, all right, with that being said, I'm gonna be, talking with Amy DePietro tomorrow. I wasn't at the meeting where she presented her budget, and I guess there was some issue with the narrative. She wanted to attach a narrative or something to it, and there was a little bit of confusion, at least what I grasped out of it from what I read in the meeting minutes and what I heard. So I just want some
She sent
clarity.
out a revision, Bill, I don't know if you got it because you were away, but
Sent-
she
yeah.
sent out a revision the following weekend, which was very helpful.
yeah,
All right.
If you don't have that, we
Yeah.
can send it to you.
All right, I'm gonna talk to her anyway, Trevor, thank you.
she didn't do it in the format, but then she sent it to us in the right format.
All right.
And Mark submitted a follow-up, right? Yeah. Did everybody get?
I forwarded both the COA and conservation to everyone.
Conservation had sent out, I think, a paragraph originally, so he did a revision, sent it out.
Okay.
So I know Terry is the liaison for the public schools, but I went to the last school committee meeting, and she went to the,
One before that.
yeah, what was it, the one before that? Whoops.
Yeah.
You're right, and I did get to see the budget being presented, and I think they're fully aware that we're gonna have to go forward with a override without, like each year. Last year, they cut,
Yeah,
they're cutting again this year, and so next year it's gonna be worse. So, they're fully aware of that too.
I thought it was interesting, though, looking at your report, Bob, to see that their increases are lower than every other
I was
town
actually
department except for
surprised.
DPW.
yeah, I
I
mean,
was surprised by that,
yeah. yeah,
very
yeah.
surprised by that.
One of the things, like the police department really surprised me. So that's where we're gonna drill down and gonna find out, why. 'Cause
Yeah.
I watch the school committee and select board on YouTube.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, YouTube.
so yeah, be honest with you, I was pretty impressed with the fact that they cut some, not that we wanna cut, but
No,
that they actually kind of figured it out themselves,
They did.
And then, they're gonna be using their funds, so there's certainly not as much pressure this year, but in the future, there's pressure on everybody. But the problem with the schools is they're so big that every 1% means a lot of money. The other thing that, Gary, you might not be aware of this, but,
Yep.
because this is your first year, but one of the problems we have is New Bedford Voc.
Right.
What they charge us, we
Yeah.
have no control over.
Yep,
It's all by this Massachusetts state law, and they've come up with the biggest number. Their numbers are actually bigger than our school committee thing, so I had asked Gary if they had their number yet. I don't know if you. got
Yeah, that was the
yeah.
number that I had given you was the final number.
And there's nothing,
Same thing with Bristol Aggie. It's not as big, but
yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, I believe there was a lawsuit over that about 10 years ago, because Dartmouth felt that we should pay by the number of students, and the Massachusetts law has a different calculation, so we end up paying more per student than New Bedford does.
Right.
it's based on the socioeconomics and the
Yeah.
ability to pay,
Yes.
not the number of students.
Yeah,
Right.
so anyways. All right,
So another
Okay.
liaison report, you saw the long-term capital.
Yep.
So I don't have to report on that. Charter Commission is hammering away at these revisions, and we're working on trying to get the articles written so that where we are right now is the team has reviewed the first article, proposed article, which will be called an omnibus article, and it's basically looking at the entire charter and making corrections for capitalization, grammar, clarifying language, nothing substantial in Article number 1. And then the following articles for the charter will be substantial changes, some of the recommendations that are being made.
what is it, is it gonna be on this warrant? They're all on this
They're
warrant?
all in this warrant.
Okay,
The process, as I understand it, is that the town meeting needs to vote on whether to send those articles to the voters. They don't vote on the article, they vote on whether or not to send those articles to the voters. And then there's a following election in FY '25.
How many articles are there,
I
Terry?
think about 8, Janine, I think about 8, because there's the one big one, and then the others, every time a change is made in some process, it has to be a separate article.
okay,
That's it.
go ahead.
Libraries? So I think the last time I was here, everyone knows that there was a plumbing problem at the Southworth Library. They managed to stay within the, and I'm ballparking the number, 80-something thousand to correct it at this point. And they have, I think it's 35,000 from a previous article that was allocated to them, but they likely may have to come to us for approximately, once again ballpark, $50,000 from the reserve fund later this year.
There will be an article to replenish the reserve.
Yes.
Okay, good.
So, heads up.
Let's put in.
Well, it's not an
extra.
article, it's in the budget.
Let's put 100,000 extra to cover up.
It's in the
these
budget.
last weeks.
Well, I believe I did increase it a little bit because of everything that's been going on.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I think it's budgeted at 510,000 for FY '25.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, somebody wanna make a motion to?
I will. Motion to adjourn?
Okay, Terry made a motion to adjourn,
Second.
second by Janine, all in favor? Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? So I see none, thank you.
Thank you for a short meeting.